Good day all, South African Prepper here on the 22nd of January 2023. So I want to talk to you about a situation in South Africa, and if you listen to the situation, maybe you as a prepper, doesn't matter where you are in the world, can actually learn something from it. So, as everybody on this channel knows, that South Africa is plagued by blackouts. So, at this stage, we have anything from 6 hours a day to about 10 hours a day of no electricity at all. So, this has impacted on the agricultural sector quite harshly. There are farmers screaming and shouting now, and they want to take the government to court because they can actually not irrigate their crops because of the lack of electricity supply. And I do believe that in certain rural areas, the supply of electricity is sometimes up to 12 hours. So if you are a farmer, which I am myself, you would know that if you have big irrigation systems like big centralized pivot systems, it can take you anything from 6 hours to 10 hours to irrigate a circle of anything from 40 hectares or 20 hectares to 40 hectares. So it does take quite a long time to irrigate certain center pivot systems. So, like I said, the reason why I can talk about this is because we are farmers ourselves. So blackouts in South Africa is going on for 15 years now, going more towards 16 years now. So I've been criticized within the farming community for saying this. Seeing that we've had load shedding or blackouts for the last 15 years, I'm actually flabbergasted why farmers and commercial farmers have not prepared for the lack of electricity. Now, I want to tell you our story. We used to run center pivots, okay? Um, 4 blocks of 40 hectares, okay? And if you know anything about center pivots, you will know that these systems are electricity suckers. They use electricity like anything. Okay, and we had to make a decision. Are we going to rely on the ANC government and Eskom, or are we going to try and make an alternative plan? Now, I feel for the farmers. I really do. Because to transition to another system to irrigate does take extra work. It does take extra money, but in the long run, the system that we've implemented, okay, is actually saving us money because I don't need to pay Eskom. I don't need to rely on Eskom. So I am flabbergasted because my fellow farmers in South Africa did not have the foresight to actually plan and make other alternatives. They are squarely relying on the government. And I think for the prepping community, even if you're not a farmer, okay, to rely on other people, external forces that you cannot control, to supply you a critical thing like electricity at this stage of the fight is stupid, especially in South Africa. Okay, so I think there's a lesson to be learned. As a preparedness community, you need to see the problems coming because you are always in a situational awareness mindset. Okay, and once you've identified the issue, in this case, we've known of load shedding the last 15 years, and especially the last 3 years, the amount of hours that they cannot supply power or electricity has increased. So clearly, you could have seen the problems coming. So I do feel for the South African farmers that cannot irrigate their crops properly, but also you cannot just sit back and think that you can trust any government to supply you something as critical as power to irrigate your crops. So that is why for the South African farmers, guys, you should have made a plan like we did 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. alternative plans. And if you started making the plans 10 years ago, you could have slowly phased in a system like a furrow irrigation system. Okay, we don't use Eskom power for irrigating. Okay, we had to make changes. Yes, it's a lot of extra work, but we don't need to rely on Eskom for electricity. And I think that's an extremely important preparedness lesson, is that you do not rely on external forces for things like power. Okay, we're going to go into, I always joke about it, we are heading towards the 1800s again in South Africa, where we're going to have to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. Okay, and hopefully one day the minorities of South Africa can actually govern themselves as well. You have to be able to feed your own family. You have to be able to sustain and look after your business, because the government, they ain't going to do it for you. And farming is a business. And I think a lot of farmers are going to fail this coming season, this coming year, because they're too reliant on Eskom. It's going to be a tough 2023, guys. You're going to have to make alternative plans. This is South African Prepper. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe.